All right, this is my Hall of Fame stat, and got a few caveats here, but the core idea is this is kind of a career accomplishment stat, right? The player who's at the top of the list at any given time doesn't mean they're the best player at that moment in time. It means if we were kind of making a greatest of all time list at that moment, here is who tournament results suggest should be the pick. And I've combined a bunch of stats to do this. I've talked about this before. Um, to do this, to get it over time, would have required way more calculations than I was up for. So I found four stats that correlated really well with the results of my previous thing. It means the results here will come out a little different. I'm rooting for me, not sure I'm going to win on this one. We'll see. I haven't actually checked the results because I wanted to have fun seeing them for the first time while doing this. But it's kind of a who at each moment in time we can take. And we're going to start around Laguna because the first tournaments I didn't actually put in everyone, but I put in everyone who I thought would be kind of relevant. Um, so we're going to start here at Laguna, and we're going to just see who has the best case for GOAT over time and who's just on the list, who's on the top 20. So we can see here, for instance, the first three tournament winners, Broccoli, Unfixable, and Kaus, are at the top of the list. I should say, like, small margins, like, if you wanted to say, nah, Kaus should be first at that point. Yeah, sure. Like, these are close scores. If you even wanted to say Aurora, who is the only player at this point in time with two deep tournament runs, even though he doesn't have a win, you want to argue at this point he's the tournament GOAT, that's legit. He's pretty close, right? That's in the conversation. Then you see some finalists like Spitfire and Soaps. Actually, Mafi Josie also might have two deep runs at this point. Cookie, Bloody Abyss, these are like semi-finalists. Kamikaze has a couple quarterfinals. Um, and here's the list at this point. Dalamar is a semifinals. Grat, I think, might have a semis. Seto has a quarters and another decent result, maybe. You know, quickly say what's included in the list, it's four stats. It's your win percentage, just your overall match win percentage. Your achievement, which is for every title you get 1,000 points. For every finals you get 500. Semifinals 250. Quarterfinals 125. Um, it seems a plausible breakdown. You might disagree. That's fine. I'm not sure I agree entirely with that. I'd probably weight them slightly differently, but I wanted it sort of like how tennis scoring goes. So there's an achievement portion, there's a win percentage, there's an ELO. What is your kind of performance rating by ELO for your career? If we take your career as a whole, all your games played to this point in time, what do we think your strength is? And there's the peak ELO you achieved, which is more of a crediting a really high peak. Like you might have a really good run and then drop off a bit, but you'll always have had that really good run and that really high score, and that will stick in the scoring. So with those four stats, I try to put together a thing. The score is kind of out of 100. Technically, scores can go over 100, but it was basically in the original version, I set the highest scoring player to finish slightly under 100 and calibrated to that. So the idea is 100 is kind of the maximum score possible. Uh, I mean, technically you can score higher, but I don't think anyone will break 100. And obviously, three tournaments in, no one's going to be approaching that. My impression, and this might be wrong, is that in general, people around 55, it starts to be like you could have won a tournament, you could not have. Most winners will end up above that, but a fair chunk of winners won't. And the kind of the best of the non-winners will end up kind of at least 55. Um, Scores like 60 are going to be really impressive. By the end of the list, probably all 20 we'll see will have at least a 60, but 60 is very hard to break. 60 is, a very good champion or an extremely good non-champion. And scores like 65 and 70, well, we'll see them at some point. You'll be able to calibrate for yourself how good those are. So we're going to start rolling this. Just want to shout out, Spike Spiegel, early semifinalist, C17 as well. Gambit, just really consistent early showings, not like anything past a quarterfinals, but these were often 7-round tournaments and regularly making round 3, round 4, the quarterfinals. It's not quite the same as making quarters, semis, and finals today in a time when most tournaments are 5 rounds or fewer, because you're going to be facing more diluted opposition, but it's still really impressive. Cloud Strife, Sphere. I think I've mentioned everyone at this point here. So, credit to these players, and let's see some movement. All right, Sphere's moving up. Soaps, okay. Where's the movement? Mafi's climbing, Sphere's climbing. Kefka makes it on the list. Mafi climbs up to fifth. Mafi is now our top non-winner. Yuffie is the tournament Cookie wins, so our top four is 4 winners, but Mafi Josie is past Aurora as our top non-winner. We're also seeing the rise of Jaws. Jaws through 2007 is a very solid non-winner, really only lost to top-tier players. We also see Biddy, who's a finalist, appear on the list and start shooting up. And we see the emergence of Doc Evil. And Doc Evil has just won his first tournament in Triad Wars 2, and it is against a clearly stronger field than any of the previous winners, and I think he deservedly jumps to first. I'm not actually sure if he's the first one to break 60 here. I think if we go back briefly, yeah, Kaus with his win was also over 60, and I think there are probably moments where each of these others, or at least some of them, Kaus is the first to break 60. Doc might be the second, I'm not sure here. Do we have any other new names? Nimloth, in his brief tournament play. Slawio makes a finals. All right. Gambit's rising. Brock breaks 60. Cookie breaks 60. TTAC 2. Who wins TTAC 2? That's Firebrand. So yeah, we have 5 winners in the top spots. Kaus has fallen a bit. He didn't follow his tournament win that well. We're going to see a real resurgence for Kaus in 2008, but for now he's going to be, probably staying around where he is. And we see the rise of Ulti. Ulti is a 2-time finalist and currently passes Mafi Josie for a top non-winner. I think Ulti's probably going to look really impressive here. Dream Virus. Dream Virus is the only player to have beaten both myself and Seto and never lost to either of us. Oh man. Look at that lead for Doc Evil. Like, Cookie's at 60. Yeah. So, Doc Evil, so most of this list, I think you could look at, any of the top 5, and you could argue any of them are the GOAT. Anyone 6th through 10th, you could argue actually they should be, 3rd or 4th, right? The numbers are clearly pretty close. Is a 56.4 clearly worse than a 58.2? No. And if you, it doesn't know narrative, right? It doesn't know, say, Beastay was the only, we haven't seen him yet, but Beastay is the only player to ever beat Doc Evil. It's not going to give bonus points for that. It's going to say, you beat a very high-rated opponent. But it's not going to know anything more than that. And so, a margin of, say, Firebrand to Unfixable, if you say, no, Unfixable's better, sure, yeah, fine. These are very close scores. If you said, Slawio should be ahead of Broccoli, probably not, right? That seems like a pretty big margin. But if you said Nimloth, didn't play many tournaments and obviously is just better than these other players, sure, I'm just taking the tournament results, right? And I think within tournament results, this is a pretty good ranking, but a few points either way is a small margin. But also, at this point, after Doc Evil, as Doc Evil wins his second tournament in Kyros, Doc Evil, oh man, he breaks 70. Doc Evil at this point is the GOAT, right? I think this is such a clear margin that there cannot be serious contention here, at least tournament playing, right? Tournament statistics. I should plug in my computer. Let's make sure everything's recording properly. All right, so, yeah, Doc Evil has to be the GOAT at this point. Ulti doing great. Non-winner, really elite non-winner. Just 2 early on finals, and I think a quarterfinals. 3 tournaments, 100% icons, at a time when icons were farther in to get. Incredibly impressive by Ulti. I actually think this is correct. Cookie has not won his second tournament yet. I think Ulti should be number 2 at this point in time. I think this is correct. I mean, shocker, I agree with numbers I put out, but I think this is actually correct. And I kind of like that there's Doc Evil, then there's Ulti and Cookie. The best non-winner and the best, non-Doc winner. And then there's Firebrand, Broccoli, Kaus, Unfixable, the other really good winners, and Mafi Josie, the best of the other non-winners. And then there's a little bit of a drop-off. And we're going to see some of these players rise. You get a whole set of just very good players. Yeah, I think this is a nice moment on the list. Soaps is rising. Mafi Josie climbs back into 4th. Nicely done. Kaus moving back up, gets up to 6th. the bottom of the list, we see all names we've seen before. Sujiro climbing. Oh, Sujiro appeared. Let's look at the Sujiro appearance, right? If we go back to here, Sujiro is not on the list. Sujiro appears, and Sujiro is moving into the good non-winners category, and he rockets up by Tifa, by a deep run in Tifa. He's not a winner yet. He is already, this system already thinks he's like one of the best players around. And one thing I like in a system is if it's kind of predictive, right? If it can take some results that aren't the big result and go, yes, this player is great. And so Sujiro already jumping to, very narrowly, but jumping to fourth, I think is neat. Dream Virus in sixth. Dream Virus is so unlucky to never have further than a quarterfinals run. Just every time he made it to the quarterfinals, it was a 7-rounder, so he goes 4-1 and gets barely an icon. Just ridiculous. Any other names? Lionheart? Karmazin appears. Karmazin makes a quarterfinals here. Beast Day appears as well. So Tifa is the tournament. Beast Day wins over Doc Evil, and I would have Beast Day much higher here. But he is the first person to win a tournament while losing a game in it, and that's gonna hurt him a lot relative to other winners. So it makes sense why he's farther down, and especially because he had some weaker results before the win. But I would have Beast Day much higher here, and we can see some flaws. I think actually let's talk a little about a flaw in this. That in my official version I try to work around is if you lose a bunch of games before, say there are two players, and they're both great players, and they both are great for 2 years, and they're equally great. You'd rank them the same, right? If one of them played for a year before that and just lost every game, and the other one didn't play the year before that, maybe they were both active on the site, maybe they were the same strength then, but one of them played tournaments when they weren't good yet, lost every game, the other didn't, and then they were both great, and they both performed great. Is the player who played those games and lost those games before they got good worse because they now have a worse win rate and worse, ELO scores? Yeah, in a sense. But in another sense, their greatness over 2 years. 2 years is a pretty long time, At this point in time, that's 6 to 10 tournaments. It's probably pretty indicative that they're similar actual greatness. Maybe one of them was a little slower to get there, but the actual level they both reach is about the same. And so, I'd slightly favor the player that didn't lose the games before, but not by much. And in my other system, I have some tools to fight that and to mitigate that difference. And in this one, I was being lazy, and I do nothing to do that. So there are a few players. Delial starts with a bunch of losses. Turd starts with a few losses. I start with 3 losses in a row. Jadat's the biggest example. Jadat starts with 5 or 6 losses in a row. He's the only player, I think, in TTA history to start with 6 losses and then become elite. And then become someone in contention to be on this list. Almost everyone else starts better. And that's going to hurt Jadat on this list. I don't know where he'll land, but wherever it is, I think he should land higher than what he appears here. So that's something to keep in mind, is there are various things I didn't adjust for. I also, in the achievement thing, I treated all tournament wins as equal, and some 4-round wins later or 3 rounds are just obviously not as good as Sujiro's about to win a 7-rounder against really good opposition. And I just, I didn't fight it. I wanted this to be something I could easily automate and put together without taking 5 days to do so. And so there are some flaws in the system. But overall, I think it's pretty good. And so far, I really like the list that's outputting. But I would mention Beast Day as the first person I would really move around. And I would also say at this point in time, Doc is the obvious GOAT. Ulti and Cookie are number 2 and 3, but then it's really close. And you could argue Ulti or Cookie for second. I think they're enough ahead, those two are second and third. But then kind of anyone from Sujiro down to, say, Spitfire, if you wanted to argue they were fourth, sure, right? All right. Unfixable climbing again. Karmazin climbing. Yeah, Karmazin's about to win Cypher. So, and Kefka runner-ups Cypher. So Kefka was towards the bottom of this list, but adding a finals win to someone who has already made it into the top 20 is obviously going to bump them up a lot. And now we have this time, and I don't know how long this is going to last, but Doc Evil and Karmazin are kind of clear 1 and 2. Cookie hasn't yet won his second, so Ulti's still third. Cookie's fourth, Kefka's fifth. And then we get a very strong competitive crowd, where Kaus per usual's near the top, Unfixable's near the top, Sujiro's still near the top, Broccoli, yeah. Very good list of players. Anyone fun at the bottom we can mention? We've seen all these names. Alright, let's keep going then. Kamikaze starting to rise, Sujiro dropping a bit. Alright, Bren just shot onto the list. Yeah, Bren's about to win Triad Wars. Bren is winning Triad Wars 3. So Bren, it seems like when someone wins their first tournament, they usually jump into the 55-60 range, depending on where they were before that. Nice rise for Kamikaze. He's a name we'll be seeing at the top of the list a lot. Bren's still rising, because Bren is a lot of winners stall after winning, especially in the early years. Like after their win, they have a couple bad results and they often stop. Bren had really good results around his win. I think he's going to rise more. Kamikaze moved up to 4th, passes Cookie. I think he's about to... Yeah, this must be as he wins. TTAC? Yep, this is as he wins. And he moves into 3rd and starts to threaten Karmazin. First player, to get close to Karmazin. And the first to break 60 since Karmazin. Yeah, and Bren has moved into 6th. And Kefka. Kefka is staying strong after his Cypher win. Any names at the bottom? Nope, we're used to all these names. Alright, Sujiro rising back up again. Is he about to win Eris? Has he just won Eris? Yes. Okay. So what are the new names? Seto has been kind of around the list, but is back on it in nice position. He hasn't yet had a super deep run. We get Yevon's appearance. He runnered up TTAC 3. Really nice run for Yevon. I think Kaus will not fall off the list, but he's at some risk. He'll need some good results now. And we got this really close battle for 2nd through 4th. That kind of is one of those questions just that always comes up in all-time rankings. There are 3 players. A reasonable scoring system has them all basically tied. Do you want the one who has done it longest in Kamikaze? The one who was incredibly dominant in a short period of time, but didn't prove it anywhere near as long in Karmazin? Or the one who's got, a higher win rate than the long-term player, but more overall success than the very short-term player, right? The middle ground of Sujiro. Which do you want? Now, specifics will matter. You don't, but we all have preferences there. You could always swing different ways on that. I remember over a decade ago now, messaging Turds about some ranking and him saying, I like the middle one. So maybe Turds like Sujiro here. But yeah. So there's a clear 1st, clear 2nd through 4th, clear 5th, and then probably Bren is in 6th at this point. I don't remember who wins Triad Wars 4. Seto's climbing. Triad Wars 4 is Virgil. Yeah, so we see Virgil start shooting up the list. Seto gets the finals there, so Seto is climbing as well. Bottom of the list, still all familiar names. Oh, we get the appearance of Waltz. And Tezuka. Yeah, Tezuka semifinals his first tournaments, comes onto the scene with a huge bang, is clearly like Rookie of the Year 2000, I guess this is 6. And Virgil both wins this tournament and has a really solid win rate in tournaments around it. Not surprised to see Virgil jumping up to 5th. And Seto, who's been steadily strong, now adds a finals to the record. Hasn't won a tournament yet, but it makes sense he'd be this high. Closing in on ulti. Alright. Okay, Tezuka falls out. Yeah. Waltz staying in. Good job, Waltz. Very nice guy. And Cookie's climbing, right? Cookie's about to win, I guess, TTAC 4. Yeah, Cookie wins TTAC 4, and we now have a group of 2nd to 5th, where Cookie has 2 wins, right? Karmazin has 1 win, but he took 2 tournaments to do it, and his other tournament is a quarterfinals and a 7-rounder. So he's like 11-1. So Karmazin is by far the best win rate of those 4. Cookie has the most championships. Kamikaze has the most icons. And Sujiro has the clear highest win rate of someone other than Karmazin. Of someone who's played like 8 tournaments, not just 2. So we have like the short-term star, the medium-term star, the longer-term star, and a 2-time champ who's also longer-term. And this system apparently doesn't like the 2-time winner as much. It likes the higher win rates more and the more icons more. But any of those four, as I keep saying, you could put in any order. Anytime the scores are kind of close, feel free to switch them around. I do think this is a good system. Like, I think there's a clear top 5 at this moment in time, and it would seem really strange to me if you put anyone else in that top 5 at this moment in time in 2006. But within that top 5, Doc is first, and the rest is up to you. Any other names that are new and fun? Nope. Let's keep going. We're going to hit Zell, so we're going to see the appearance of Meta here. Yeah, and we see Meta climb. Nice. Yeah. Meta gets his win. I don't know if he has any other big results yet, so it makes sense he'd be kind of in the mid-high 50s, but not higher. Ooh, maybe it is higher. Yeah. Okay. He probably does have other results then. Yeah, very nice debut for Meta here. We see Bryce. Bryce only played 2 tournaments, but icons both of them. Just really impressive. Just a really rare feat for someone to get icons in their first 2 tournaments. So even though it's a small sample, it's one of those samples that's like impressive enough that it really stands out. And we see Koner. Oh, when did we see Koner appear? Kona, however you want me to pronounce it. Let's look for Kona. I was distracted. There's Meta, there's Bryce, and there's Kona. Yeah. I'm curious to see where Kona lands, because he really racks up a ton of icons early. And I'm not sure how high that will get him. That's going to be fun to see. All right. Seto climbing. Seto joins that second tier group. This is Triad Wars 5? Yeah, Seto wins Triad Wars 5. And we can see for a hot second he and Kazi switch spots. But with a win, as well as his just really good resume to this point, Seto is now duking it out for that second group. Sujiro fallen a bit. Sujiro was doing better in this top group. Meta still maybe threatening to join the group at some point. Kana is gonna be rising. Oh, Grat. We get an appearance of Grat. I think we've probably seen Grat a little, but I must have missed it because he's kind of a familiar name to see. But if I haven't mentioned Grat, Grat is obviously great. It's hard to make the top 20. All right, Kaus moving back up. Nice to see. He has a really good 2007-2008, and here we get the appearance of Delial. So we're in 2007 at this point. And Delial passes Kana, passes Grat, passes Bryce, passes Kaus, because he wins Kate Sith. Now, he doesn't debut quite as high as you might think, winning Kate Sith. We go back to just as he's won Kate Sith right here, right? He's a lower end 50, mid 50s rather than high 50s. And that's because he started like 1 in 5 or something. And that really does bring you down more than I wish it did. He and Jadot are really hurt by this. Did we even see Jadot when Eris happened? Where's Eris? Yeah, just for a moment. And he should really be, his finals run is really good. He has a semifinals run right next to it. I think he should be right in the kind of Dream Virus, Firebrand, Mafiosi area. And clearly he never gets there. And that sucks. That sucks. So I think this gets most players right, but there's a few players it gets a little wrong. And here with Kate Sith, it's going to be a little low to realize how good Deli is. Because these slightly slow tournament starts, it's more down on than it should be. It kind of gets washed out by the time you've played a ton of tournaments, but it does hurt the trajectory a bit. Anything else to note here? Meta breaks 60. Nice work. Yeah, Meta was so good in like 2007-ish. One of the reasons, I guess we haven't gotten there yet, so I'll hold off on that. All right, TTA C5, Suikoden wins this one. And yeah, Suikoden is very much a lower end winner. This makes sense. Just never really has any results outside of the win. Keith Atkinson gets the finals here, but doesn't quite make the list. You'll notice at this point 55 is needed to make the list. If we look early on, scores like 50 would make the list. So making a finals locked you into an appearance on the list early on, and now it is not necessarily enough unless you have good accompanying results. And it's going to be harder and harder to make the list, and we're going to see less and less movement because the players are going to be more locked into their spots. And it's going to be, because each player now has to pass everyone that's come before, right? And as more players come, the harder that is to do. What comes after TDC 5? Mafiosi back on the list. Seto climbing again, so I think he's about to win something. Yeah, Rhinoa won. Seto wins his second tournament, and while Cookie has 2 wins and a couple other results, Seto now has 2 wins and a lot of other results. He's the third player to win 2. He's the second player to have 2 wins in a finals. He has now won like 2 tournaments in the last 4 or so and a finals to boot, which is like not quite the same as Doc's peak, which is 2 tournaments and a finals and 3, but also kind of close, and he has some other good results. It makes sense he's starting to reach that career value of Doc Evil, and I guarantee you he will be the first to pass Doc Evil. Kazi and Sujiro and Karmazin, still in that next group. Cookie has caught up to them at points, currently a little below. Delhi's approaching 60. Meta has dropped below 60. Bren, Kefka, Kaus, Bryce, Kona. Yeah, all looks pretty normal. Oh, appearance by D. Yeah, so D kind of has 2 peaks. He first appears on the scene in kind of 2007-08 as a really strong tournament player, and then he drops off. I think he'll disappear quite quickly, and then we won't see him again for a while. But he's going to come back in the 2011 period and might rise quite high then. Though it's going to be harder to rise then. So Delhi's still rising. We can see Delhi climbing well into the 60s. Yep. So this must be, yeah, this is Triad Wars 6. So Triad Wars 6 stands out to me as one of the best tournaments ever won. Also, I should mention, Seto has moved into first with a finals in Triad Wars 6. I think it's Triad Wars 6. So who are the best players at this point in time, right? It's Delhi, it's Seto, it's Meta, right? Meta is the person who's been rising most on recent lists, and it's Kana, who's, rocketed onto the list a little before Delhi did and is moving up it again, right? Those are the 4 best players that are active at this point in time. Doc Evil's not active. Kazi's still very good, but he seems to be staying steady at his high rank, right? I think, like, pretty clearly at this moment, not for the overall achievement this rates, but for who were the best players at this moment, it's something like Seto, Delhi, Kana, Meta. And Delhi in Triad Wars 6 beats the other 3 of those 4. And I think it is a tremendously rare occurrence, and possibly this is the only time it happens, that someone in a tournament win beats the 3 other best players on the site at that point in time. I think that is very rare, and it might be the only time it ever happens, which is a serious case for Triad Wars 6 as the greatest tournament ever won. And there's some really impressive ones, Kamikaze and Squall, Seto and Triad Wars 8. But I think if you look at kind of, did they beat the other 3 best active players on the site at the time, I think you just find the answer is no. They beat 3 or 4 of the best 6 or 8, yes. And certainly that's in the convo. But there is a case for Triad Wars 6 as the best tournament ever won. And, yeah, Delhi deservedly rockets into that top 3. What's next? Alright, Kana's still climbing. Turds appears. We just had Vincent. Also, appearance by Homer. Nice to see Homer on the list. Yeah, Turds, very nice win in Vincent. You can see he must have other good supporting results at this point because he's caught up to Bren. So this is, and past people like Kaus. He beat Kaus during that run, so that's kind of fitting. Yeah, and Kazakh. We get Kazakh, who, this is his second finals. His first finals didn't quite make it there, right? I did mention that a finals is no longer good enough to earn you a spot, guaranteed. But 2 finals does get Kazakh a spot. Alright, Kona's still climbing. Yeah, Kona passes Cookie. Kona does not have a tournament win yet, though this might be due to, yeah, this is going to be Rhinoa too? Yep. Okay, so Kona gets his first win and has just such a good supporting cast of other results. Jumps into 4th, close to Delhi. I did not... So at this moment in time, right, I think Seto and Doc are the top 2. We're kind of mid-2008. But Delhi, Kona, and Kamikaze all now have an argument. Like, they're all close enough. It's a bit distant. Seto and Doc are ahead. But there's probably a case for any of those 3. I didn't realize Kona got that close to GOAT discussions. He's probably the 3rd best player on the site at this point, behind Delhi and Seto, and he has an all-time amazing resume. but I didn't think he'd ever come close to being. He's the second or third or fourth best player for a whole stretch of time. But I didn't think there was a period where he was the second or third or fourth best player of all time. And he might have a case right now, especially given that Kamikaze has had so much longer to build his resume than Kona has. Kona joins much later. Kona and Turds, their first tournaments at the same time. You know, I think that's right. I might be making that up. But like came significantly later. All right, and he's still climbing. He's still climbing. Will he pass Deli for a moment? Ooh, appearance of Great Sephiroth starting to climb. Climbing fast. So this is Rhinoa 3. Yeah, Great Sephiroth wins Rhinoa 3. And Kona and Deli are creating some separation to Kamikaze. And, yeah. Alright. Nice appearance for Great Sephiroth. He's going to keep going up. Kazik climbing a little. Moves up a few spots. D appears again for a hot second. Great Sephiroth passes meta. Slash of Time appears. Ooh, when did that happen? Alright, Slash of Time wasn't here. And then Slash wins Rhinoa 4 and jumps up to a 58. So a solid first win by, like, someone who has, you know, a good case here. Okay, and Kona has passed Deli for a hot second. I missed that. And GS is climbing fast. Yojimbo appears. Alright, our first appearance of Yojimbo. He finals Rhinoa 4, I think? No, he doesn't. He finaled Rhinoa 3, but it probably adds a good result in Rhinoa 4 and a good result in TTA C6 to get him onto the list. Yeah, he makes the list before I do. Well done. And Kona and Deli neck and neck. Seto is staying around where he is, near Doc. But GS has caught up to that group, right? GS is firmly in the Karmazin Sujiro Kamikaze group now. And he will not be letting go of that, right? Cookie drops off of it. Oh, and we hit 2008. I missed this. Yeah. Kaus has a huge comeback year in 2008. He wins his only title in 2003, but his best overall year is 2008. He basically icons everything. He makes a finals. It's one of the excellent years in TT history and deservedly moves back up above basically all the other one-time winners except for the exceedingly special ones. Deli's climbing again. Scythe is on the list. Yeah, Serenity. Yeah. So Deli wins Irvine and becomes the third player to break 70. Seto makes the semifinals of Irvine. That's how he moved up, but Deli beats him again. All right, Kona still with a great score, but, you know, now falling behind Deli a bit. Great Sephiroth still in that second tier. Kaus still just having an excellent 2008. And Scythe semifinals Irvine and is now going to go... No, finals or... No, semis. Kamikaze... Wait. No, I think Scythe finals Irvine. Scythe is his finals opponent in Irvine. Deli's opponent. Yeah. I got my first semis here. Not good enough to make the list. But yeah, Scythe is going to go on... It goes on an all-time run here because he wins TTAC 6. Yeah, I forgot about that. He wins TTAC 6, which does not on its own get him a spot anymore. He must be just under. Yeah, because to get on the list, you need at least a 57. A win does not necessarily get you to 57 if you don't have other results. But then in Irvine, he does have another great result. And that's enough to get him all the way up to a 62. And then he also... Alright, let's let it play properly. In Triad Wars 7, he gets another semifinals. He gets a win, a finals, and a semis in a row. And makes it into the top 10. Also, I win Triad Wars 7, get a semi and a win in a row, and that gets me up around to where meta is. That makes sense. Slash of Time, still really good. Yojimbo has fallen off. He'll obviously boot back. But Slash of Time has an incredible 2009. And I think I should probably end up leaving 2009 a little ahead of him, but not actually by that much. And Deli is now right there with Doc. Yeah, Slash climbing. Great Sephiroth climbing. We've hit Sid, haven't we? I'm climbing too. I get a semis, GS wins. Slash beats me in the semis, yeah. So Slash beats me in the semis, but loses to Great Sephiroth in the finals here. So Slash does a lot of ground catching up to me here. And GS, oh my god, he's past Kana. GS is so good. Alright. At this point in time, I remember thinking, I thought Seto, Deli, and Karmazin were the three best players, followed by GS. And I thought Seto and Deli were fighting it out for GOAT. And I came after Doc, so it makes sense I didn't really have him in my head. But Kana and GS are really, really damn good. Okay, so I think I'm about to win Selfie. No, TTA C7. Yojimbo makes it back. He makes the finals of TTA C7. He earns back his spot. Turds, Kazik, Bren, all still very good. Scythe, so good. What a just incredible 3-tournament run. Really has no results outside of it, but it's one of the amazing 3-tournament runs. Really strong opposition, too. Okay, I've caught up to Great Sephiroth. Slash, gonna pass Cookie. Slash passes Cookie. Slash moving into that Kamikaze Karmazin Sujiro tier. He does well in Rhinoas. Okay, I think we just hit my 3rd win. Yeah, Selfie. So Nightwish appears. Nightwish, strong debut with the finals here. Nightwish's very first tournament, he beats Kamikaze and Vincent. Crazy result. What else is going on here? Turds is climbing. Turds, I think, makes semis in Selfie. Loses to Nightwish in the semifinals. Makes sense he'd be climbing. Nightwish, really good. Doesn't have a win yet. Very, very high score for someone without a win, right? You know, if we haven't really kept track of best non-winner, but it's basically been just Ulti for forever. And now Nightwish is finally passes Ulti. I became at this point the first person to ever win 3 tournaments, so I think it makes a lot of sense I'd be near the top. No, that's not true. What am I talking about? Deli already won 3, right? Yeah, it's just a little down on Deli because he had a slightly slower start. But Deli was the first to win 3. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we have Selfie. Yojimbo's climbing. That's going to be what tournament? Rhino at 6. Yeah, Yojimbo wins it. Nightwish also climbing. And Seto pulling into the lead. So this might be Triad Wars 8, which is Seto's 3rd win. Yeah, and that's another tournament that might be one of the best tournaments ever won. He beats... I think he finally gets a win over Deli, who's obviously his top opponent. He beats Yojimbo. He beats MC, I think, who's not yet here, but very good. He beats everyone he beats except for Soli has won a tournament. Though they may not have won it yet, right? Let's bring that up in the background. Because Triad Wars 8... It's one of those things of, like, Triad Wars 8, the pedigree of the people he beats, is the greatest run ever. He beats Bren, who is now not currently in my top 20, but was for a long time. He beats Soli, and then he beats Yojimbo, he beats Delial, he beats Great Sephiroth, and he beats MC. Now, I think if you compare it to Deli's Triad Wars 6, Deli beat people when they were at their very best, right? He beats, like, peak Seto, Kona, and Meta. And this one, like, Yojimbo is not yet at his peak, Bren is well past his peak, Great Sephiroth is at his peak. I think this one has the pedigree. Like, this one, the names are kind of bigger, but Deli's is against the names at their greatest moments. You know, MC's not here yet, right? In Seto's run. So I think there's a case between them. I think Triad Wars 6 and Triad Wars 8 are 2 of the 3 or so best tournaments won. Eris has a shot. There's a Yojimbo tournament, maybe Quistis, that's in the conversation. Might be Triad Wars 10. One of those 2 is really up there, though shorter. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Point is, Triad Wars 8's an incredible tournament, and Seto's score should go up a lot for it. Alright, let's press play. What do we got? Nightwish still climbing. MC appears. Yeah. MC follows up his finals in Triad Wars 8 by winning Barrett and rockets up. And now we have the brothers right next to each other. And we kind of have, I think there are 5 GOAT contenders. They don't have to be in this order, but I think whatever order you have Seto was up, Doc, Deli, and Great Sephiroth, you can't go that wrong at this point. I think Koner's just clear 6th. I mean, it looks like the margin is enough that it would be hard to argue him much higher. You could put him over like 1 or of the group of the 3 above him, but probably not more than 1. And it looks like he has a clear margin on the people below him. So Kona's 6th. And then there's Nightwish and MC have caught up to Kazi, who's not been that active for a while, but catching up to him is obviously a huge achievement. And Karma's and Sujiro right in that group with Slash Cookie a little behind. And that is a very strong top 13 of all time, and it does not even have Yojimbo breaking in yet. Man, and now you need basically 60 to make the list. So winning a tournament not getting you here unless you have like another finals or a semis or something, right? Okay, GS climbing. What's this? Presumably he just won a tournament, but now I'm blanking. TTAC 8. Yeah, he does win TTAC 8. And he rockets up to 3rd. God, Great Sephiroth's so good. Sujiro makes the finals of this, right? This is Sujiro's comeback tournament, and he makes a run to the finals 2-3 years after his peak, after not having played for a while. Fantastic run. Nightwish taking a clearer lead over MC. Sujiro passing Kamikaze. Kamikaze will also have a comeback tournament that will reassess that. Yeah, Kaos, Yojimbo, Turds, Serenity, Meta. Yeah, we're seeing fewer changes on the list, right? It's starting to be pretty locked in. Like, this list is quite similar to what our final list will be 15 years later, right? This is 2010, and in 2024, the top 20 will have many of the same names. There's not going to be that much change here, though there will be jockeying for position. Right, who's moving? Nightwish is climbing again. And Kamikaze's climbing. Rhinoa 7, okay. Nightwish did phenomenally in the Team Rhinoas. And I think we just hit Squall. Yeah. So, Squall. Yeah, there we go. So, Kamikaze, huge win in Squall. This is another one. By some ways of doing it, this might be my pick for best tournament ever won. Again, it doesn't meet the Delhi Triad Wars 6 standard of did you beat the 3 other best players on the site at the time. Triad Wars 8, the players may not have quite the resume of that, but if you look at ELO ratings of how players were at the time, he had the strongest field beaten, I think, of anyone. So this is another one that's very firmly a contender for best tournament of all time, but I've talked about that kind of stuff in the past, so no need to repeat. I take first on the list for my first time. Obviously, that's cool. I remember this quite firmly. I underrated Kamikaze in the finals. This is not why I lost. I lost because he played better than me. But I had just beaten a bracket I thought was just, this was going to be obviously the best tournament ever won. I would win Squall. I would be the first one to win 4 tournaments. I would have won the clear best tournament ever. And I was going to retire on a high. And then Kamikaze absolutely crushed me. I thought it was a single game, but Smokes has a write-up and an Occult fan. So apparently I got absolutely destroyed the first game, but snuck out a tie, and then got absolutely destroyed again the second game, but did not sneak a tie. So, you know, but fantastic run by Kamikaze, and really obliterated me in the finals. And actually, this is the list where we're seeing the most kind of, normally there's this sort of curve to it where it levels off, but we're seeing kind of clear delineation, right? There's a jump from Slash and Yojimbo and Cookie to Karmazin, a jump to Sujiro. MC's pretty close, but then a jump to Nightwish. There's more little jumps than there has been. There's more separation between people. For whatever that's worth. Okay, Yojimbo's rising. That was going to happen at some point. Rhinoa 8, I believe he wins that. Now MC is rising as well, but not as fast as Yojimbo. Will MC pass Nightwish? He does. Triad Wars 9. So Yojimbo finals that, he loses to D in the finals, and D breaks back onto the list. And it's hard to get onto the list at this point. MC climbing. MC breaks 70. Delhi seems to be climbing, but MC is rocketing up. Oh my god. MC is so high. I'm surprised. I mean, I expect MC and Nightwish to eventually pass Kamikaze, but to be right there with Doc and Delhi. Like, Delhi has a down period. After his amazing 07-08 run, he and Seto put up two of the four best runs ever in 07-08 at the same time. It's insane. And, like, Kana's doing what he did at that point as well. But MC catching that. MC is absurd 2010-11. I win Rufus, so I move up. Yep, that makes sense. Okay. And that was the first one to win 4 tournaments. It wasn't the first to win 3. That was Delhi. Oh, Broccoli's return. Yeah, Broccoli gets back on the list because Broccoli wins the first TTAC, plays a couple more tournaments, does okay, and then comes back 8 years later and wins her first TTAC back. Incredible. Awesome performance. Alright, Slash Rising. I assume this is a Rhinoa then, coming in. Passes Karmazin. Rhinoa 9. And Slash joins that kind of Sujiro group that we now have this very clear group at 70. There are 10 players who have hit 70, and I think for tournaments at least, that's just very clearly the top 10. And then Sujiro, Slash, and Karmazin come after. Will Slash catch up to that top 10? I'm not sure. In my official version of this, Slash is basically in a tie with Kana. And he does have a tournament he wins that hasn't been counted yet. So we'll see where he ends up. Slash is the person I'm most expecting to rise towards that top group. How long have I been going on this? 46 minutes. I'm sorry. This takes 5 minutes to run if I don't talk every 3 seconds. I apologize. Alright. Seto rising. So this must be Ward. Yep, that's Ward. Alright. No huge changes here, except, Seto's amazing. Delhi's rising. Yeah, Delhi got to pass Great Sephiroth. Rhinoa 10. Yeah, Delhi wins a Rhinoa. Delhi, the only player to have won tournaments of every type, which is insane. Like, he hasn't won a closed tournament yet, but he will. He's won a Rhinoa, a Team Rhinoa, which, Yojimbo, Nightwish, Slash, and Delhi are basically the only people who won those. So he won Team Rhinoa. He'll go on to win a TTAC. He'll go on to win a closed, and obviously he's already won every open thing available. Yojimbo climbing again. Oh no, we gotta hold Yojimbo down. This is a problem. Yeah, Yojimbo wins Triad Wars 10. He beats me in the finals. That's about when I quit. Yojimbo's probably gonna pass me pretty soon. God, Great Sephiroth's so good though. And MC is quite close. And Nightwish now catching up to MC. Right, Nightwish finals Nanaki and Vid wins that, and we do see Vid appear on the list. I think that's for the first time. Alright, Yojimbo climbing again. Yojimbo's about to win everything. Broccoli climbing. Nice work. Yeah, Yojimbo wins TTAC 10. Beats Seto in the finals. Though Seto wins the open game for what that's worth. And that... Yojimbo's climbed too far. We gotta stop him. Weirdly, it's only D that ever seems to stop him. Yep, still climbing. He's gonna win some more tournaments. There goes my first. Yeah, he wins Quistis. He beats me in it too. Rough. Especially because Quistis was my avatar for a while. What else is going on? Not a ton. Okay, D's climbing. Is D about to win Triad Wars something? 11. Yeah, Triad Wars 11. Vid moving up. Vid is such a good run in like the 2013-ish period. And Yojimbo's climbing again. Vid's climbing. Is this Nanaki? No, this is Garland. Right, Vid wins Garland. So Vid wins Nanaki and then Garland. Right, we already did Nanaki. Becomes the first winner of a closed tournament. Chickeny makes the list. Chickeny is always my pick for GOAT non-winner. We haven't seen Piggyman. He hasn't quite made his peak yet, and he might not quite make it on given that the list is so strong. But at this point, Piggyman, I think, is caught up to kind of the second best non-winner. But Chickeny is basically beating everyone but Yojimbo and just having a number of huge runs. And we can see Yojimbo climbing, getting some separation, and Chickeny climbing as well. Okay. Smokes makes the list for the first time. Yeah, Smokes wins TTAC 11. He was steadily, probably somewhere in like the 50s. I did actually look at Smokes' numbers because I was curious, and he's just very steadily like I had a ticker at all times of what score you needed to make the top 20, and Smokes just kept being like a few points under. Like if you need a 58, he's at a 55. If you need a 60, he's at a 57. And now with his TTAC 11 win, he finally makes the list. Has Kaus just been on the list since the inception? I think so. Nightwish repasses MC, so this is probably Rhinoa 11. Yeah. Oh man, what an incredible score for Nightwish. So I always rank Great Sephiroth higher than Nightwish and MC. And then I look at the numbers, and they're all very close. And I'm like, why am I so confident Great Sephiroth is better? And I think it's largely because, well, both because I was much more active on the site when he was great, but also there's more time when he's at the top of the list. By the time Nightwish and MC get here, Great Sephiroth has been here for a while, right? And I think it's just one of those biases towards the person who's been here longest. But I do think Nightwish and MC are kind of. You can make the case that they are right there with Great Sephiroth, especially Nightwish, but MC's peak might be the highest of all three. Now, I think Great Sephiroth has the highest peak and has it earlier than the others. And that's usually enough for my instincts to be he's better, but they are remarkably close. They are remarkably close. Vid passes Slash of Time. Sujiro's such a great player. Sujiro played so many fewer tournaments than most here. Like, Great Sephiroth didn't play that long. Nightwish didn't play that long. MC played a bit longer than Nightwish did. Doc obviously is very short time. I've played relatively few tournaments for people here. Like, I've played less than Nightwish and MC, actually. But Sujiro has played less tournaments than anyone above him except Doc Evil. Yeah. If you were kind of looking at this list for, like, who has crazy talent for the game, Sujiro's got to be one of the higher up people. He's also the only person to beat Karmazin in a tournament. You know, again, this doesn't include narrative stuff, but I always want to prop up Sujiro's reputation. Not that it needs it, and yeah, so I'll do a little of that here. That's not to say that the people who amass victories over time deserve less credit, because I think that's incredibly hard to do. I find triple triad tournaments very stressful, hence why I do not play as many as, like, are available to be played, because I find it a very tense time. And the people who can just keep playing them and keep putting in results deserve a ton of credit. Like Slash said in my interview with him when asked who's the GOAT, he said it's obviously Deli, because Deli is the only player who just wins tournament after tournament in every era of the site. Starting in 2007, so I guess not the very first, but Slash wasn't around for that. And also, like, I think that era was a bit weaker. Like, can see the winners of that era, and I think they are weaker. So, but Deli's the only player who just, like, every few years grabs a win against whoever the field is, and in all tournament types. And yeah, that's not something that's quite going to be captured here. Okay, what do we got after Rhinoa 11? Vid's moving a little, but most people aren't. Titus Una. Okay, that's not going to move people much, because most of the closed tournaments won't have that much impact. Not because you don't get credit for it, but because they're won by players who won't quite qualify for the list, and the players on the list have, like, reasonable results, but not ones that change their standing very much, usually. Like, Vid gets a big boost from Garland, but for the most part, the closed tournaments are somewhat low impact on this. Not because I'm devaluing them. Man, Yojimbo wins too much. He's got to stop. So he wins Triad Wars 12, becomes the second player after Seto to win 2 Triad Wars. Yeah. Slash Rising and Yojimbo Rising. I think Slash is about to beat Yojimbo in the finals of Sephiroth. Yep. And Chickeny. Oh my god, Chickeny's so good. How many non-winners are on this list? 1. It's 1. And it's not like he's barely on the list. Well done to Chickeny. Alright. Now Yojimbo's just finaling every tournament at this point. You just see everyone else trailing back because Yojimbo's growing his lead. Oh man, yeah, rough for us anti-Yojimbo rooters. I don't think I'm gonna catch up to him on this version. I think his lead's too big. Okay, Broccoli back on the list. Nicely done to Brock. And Akiyama's appearance. So yeah, this is I think it's got to be the last new person we see on the list. Because basically, as I was looking through players, I think the only two players that are like younger than me, younger not in age, but in time of joining the site, that make the list or even come close, I think are Chickeny and Akiyama. And there have been a bunch of good players who started after me, but it's really hard to break into the top 20. And Chickeny and Akiyama, I believe, are the only ones to do so. And I was kind of at the end of the like Slash, Sir Smokes, Yojimbo, MC, Nightwish wave of like just huge talent. And after that, that was a huge wave of talent, but it was kind of the last one for like super top tier tournament talent. Not to say there aren't, lots of other talent. And not to say there aren't people who are very, very good that came after, just not pushing for top 20 all time, which is obviously a very high rank. Kaus has still just been here the whole way. All right. Akiyama rising. Yep, he wins a dia, gets up to a 65. Remarkable. Yeah. And he will keep climbing. He's probably the main mover at this point, right? We have a very clear top 4. Then we have GS and the Polish brothers. Then we have, and you could put Doc above them, like Doc's just hard to grade. And then we have Kana Kamikaze and Slash. The way I did it this time probably slightly underrates Slash's achievements. I'm not sure how I'd order those 3. I think you could do it any which way and not be wrong. And that gives you, I think, the correct top 11 of all time. And my other list has Akiyama and Vid 12th and 13th, and I bet Akiyama will get there shortly. Turds has fallen off the list. He's going to rocket back on, though I'm going to be a little skeptical of that. I assume he's going to rocket back on. Possible he doesn't. Smokes passes Chickeny, maybe? No, not quite. Turds back in with Gilgamesh, makes a semis. Akiyama climbing. What's coming in? Tried Wars 13, right? He makes a finals. Passes Vid. Is he going to break 70? Deli climbing. Is Deli going to pass Seto? Deli's like always trailed Seto by a bit. More at sometimes, less at others. But Seto starts in 2003, and Deli has his first good results in 2007, 2006 are his first good results. And so like he's always just trailing Seto by a bit in this kind of all-in-one metric. It would be fun if he passes him here. Turds, yeah, back on the list because Turds finals Onion Night and Deli wins it. Again, Deli the only player to have won tournaments of every type. He's won open, he's won closed, he's won TTAC, which is open and closed, and he's won team events. And he's won TTN, but even if we don't include that, he's the only player to win all those 4 kind of structures of event. And again, like if you look at the top of the list, at this point, like I didn't think he was the GOAT because I'm biased, but like there's a very good case for Yojimbo as GOAT. It makes sense everyone would pick him, but also any of those top 4 is reasonable to choose. Okay, Turds climbing a bit. Yeah, so I'm a little... I think this version overrates Turds. And I love Turds. And I think he's great. But it gives a full 1,000 points for Carver, which was like 3 rounds where he faced 2 beginners and Vialva, who's very good. But, you compare this, like, it doesn't quite get the same score because it has less effect on win percentage and elo and other stuff. But it's like, has a kind of similar impact to his score as Sujiro winning the 7-rounder against top-tier opposition of Eris was. And these are just not comparable things, right? And Turds is going to get another... Turds gets 2 3-round titles in Carver and Kefka. And in my other version, I do stuff that stops this, I think, from overrating him, and I think he's correctly rated on the other one. But here, I think he will climb too high. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. So now we're getting Nephilim, I guess, so I'm starting to climb. And Seto makes a finals in Nephilim. Yeah. And Akiyama knocking on 70. Kaus still on the list. Yeah, Turd's still climbing. Smoke's climbing. Akiyama does break 70. Makes a finals in Triad Wars 14. I only have 2 tournaments left, and one of them I go out round 2. I'm not going to catch Yojimbo. Like, you seem to get about 3 points if you win a tournament, and that won't be quite enough. Chickeny inching up. Piggyman makes it. Yeah, I was so worried he wouldn't make it because by the time he's top tier, I mean, he's so good around 2011-12, but he doesn't play that much. And by the time he gets his finals, I thought it would be too late for him to make the top 20. And Kaus drops off the list for the only time that will ever happen in TT history. Kaus is great. What a legend throughout the ages. Okay, Tezuka wins TTAC 14, takes that spot on the list. Yeah, makes sense. Cookie wins the Dawn. Cookie back in the conversation for these kind of great but not quite top 10 players. Yeah, Turds wins Cosmos. Okay, I do think Turds is a little too high here. Not a ton too high, right? I think Turds, Vid, Smokes, Chickeny, Cookie, Sujiro, Karmazin. Yeah, there should be some gap between them and Tezuka at this point. But, like, you could argue them in a lot of directions. Not absurd. Okay, Kaus makes it back on. Congrats to Kaus. Akiyama moves into the top 10. I think that is wrong. I think Akiyama is clearly a top 10 talent player. But I think given how much longer Kona and Kamikaze did it, so this is fundamentally, I think, one of the weaknesses of this system is I am overrating late achievements somewhat, right? It's just going deep in a 3 or 4 or 5 rounder is just easier than going deep in a 6 or 7 rounder. And so some players, including myself, are benefiting from that. Though given that the top 4 were all active during some of this, like Yojimbo is not active now, but he was very active for much of the decline in number of people in tournaments, I think it is not making huge differences among the top 4. But for instance, if you compare Sujiro to the people around him, or Kamikaze, or Kana's playing when there were much longer tournaments. Yeah, Kana doesn't overlap with the shorter tournament period at all. It can feel a little unfair in comparisons to them. But also, like, Akiyama is a top 10 level talent, and yeah. Nice! Good job, Deli. Wins TTAC. Passes Seto, again, despite his 3 or 4 years behind in start date, which really took a while to overcome, but then Seto wins right back, and it'll reset, so I'm just gonna push it to the end. Wins Ultimecia. And this is our final standing for this. Tezuka climbing. So, okay, let's look at our final list. We have Karmazin in 20th. I think this is about right. I mean, you could put him higher. I've had him as high as 13th in lists I've done. You could put him lower. It's hard to rate people who played 2 tournaments, but his 2 tournament result is so insane. If you say, over their career, did players above him have any stretch of their career they went 11-1? And the answer is, like, Sujiro might have, Cookie didn't, Tezuka didn't, Chickeny didn't, Smokes didn't, Vid didn't, Turds didn't, Slash didn't, Akiyama didn't, Kazi didn't, Kana didn't, Doc did, MC might, GS might, MC and Up might, but basically, so Doc and Up might, but no one else has done that, right? So even if it was somewhat weaker opposition, even if we don't have that much of a tournament history, the fact that these other people have often played 30, 40 tournaments and never done once what he did in 2 tournaments means there's a case for him much higher. But this feels about right to me. Sujiro, insane talent, just phenomenal 17 tournament career. Cookie, 2-time winner, in the case for GOAT early on. Tezuka, really done incredible in the return, but also in even 2006-7, it was just clear he was a top level player. Chickeny, the only non-winner on the list, 3-time finalist, basically just didn't beat Yojimbo, but he did beat Yojimbo in a semifinals and then lost the finals to Broccoli. Came so close to getting that one. But it's not even like he couldn't beat Yojimbo. He did and could, right? Couldn't did. Sir Smokes racking up those icons, winner of TTAC 11. Vid, 2-time winner. One of only 2 players to have won a fully open and fully closed tournament, the only player other than Delhi to do so. And Nanaki is also one of the more impressive titles won. I did a kind of tournament ranking of which tournament had the most all-time greats in it, and Nanaki is the answer. So Vid won, in one sense, the hardest tournament ever. Turds, 3-time winner, our first 3-time winner. Again, I think 2 of them were soft, but Vincent was really, really hard and just steadily great player over a long period of time. Slash of Time, I kind of think is underrated here. He's a giant killer. He is the only player in TT history who has played who has beaten at least 3 of the 4 top players and is a plus record against that group. Against Yojimbo was up Seto and Delial. He's a winning record against that group. Now, he has a very losing record against Nightwish, GS, MC, Kona Kamikaze group, so it's kind of weird, right? He beats the very best, but the second best beat him, and then he's very good again against the third best, possibly just randomness. But I think Slash is probably underrated here. I do think Akiyama's a little overrated here, but I also think he's basically an MC Nightwish level talent. So it's hard for me to say. But I do think in overall stuff, if I was, not following numbers here, but doing my own list, I would have him just behind the Kana Kamikaze Slash group, rather than in the midst of it. Kazi's excellent, as I said. Squall is one of the great tournaments ever won. It's also really cool that he wins a site championship in 05 and is quite active from 03 to 08, and then comes back in 2010 and wins quite possibly the best tournament ever won. Kana, just so good from 2006 to 2009, then wins a title in 11 or 12 as well. Doc, again, much like Karmazin, hard to compare with anyone, just phenomenal. You can have him first. I don't. I do have him higher than this list would have him. I think I have him 5th in my head. I think I have him 5th. Given how close Nightwish, GS, and MC are, though, you probably want to have him 5th or 8th or 1st. He's either 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, 5th, or 8th. Something like that. Then we get MC, GS, and Nightwish. I think GS is the best of that group. But as I said, that might just be biases of when it happened. But I do think GS is the best of that group narrowly. I would go GS, Nightwish, MC. They're very close. They're all very good. And if they had all played, 40 or tournaments instead of 20 to 25, they'd be in the GOAT discussion if they could keep up what they did. Delial and Seto. Seto starts with that head start. Delhi catches up. It's very close. In general, I think Delhi has done things in a more varied way. But Seto has just unbelievable win rates and just unbelievable performances against all level of players, especially against winners, against other tournament winners. Just absurd win rate. And then Yojimbo and I think this top 4 you can have in any order. Yojimbo has the achievement, right? He has more icons. He's played more. I have the win rate stuff. He has the achievement stuff. It's another, do you value the player who did it significantly longer, or do you value the player with higher win rates? And the question is, do you think I'd catch up if I played more tournaments? And can you give me credit? Because I haven't played those tournaments. and he was, I think, the much more kind of voracious competitor. But this is a pretty good list. It's not quite the list I'd have, but it's pretty close. And I really wanted to have a list that just automated itself over time. So I could say, like, what about, I want, what's this? This like mid 2008. What's the list in mid 2008? Okay, it's Seto, Doc, Deli, Kana. That's the big four. And then there's a second big four of Kamikaze, Sujiro, Karmazin, Cookie. And then there's a bunch of really good winners and non-winners led by Kaus. We're about to get, we're getting the start of the rise of Great Sephiroth, the start of Turds. Just any moment in time you can grab. And there's going to be a link to this in the description of the video, so you can play this at your own pace and not at my pace of, oh god, over an hour. All right, we got to end the video.